And good morning, everybody. How y'all doing today? Tuesday morning, the 25th of July. Wow, this year's just flying by. Unfreaking believable how quick it's going. Ah, going to have some interesting things here. And of course, we're going to touch on one of my favorite subjects, just gets me going. And, there are days that I'm just so proud of certain governors. And certain governors just constantly or more consistently make me proud of their actions. Ones that stand up on certain issues and issues that affect the whole country. Why, good morning, Raman. I am doing quite well this morning, darling. And how about yourself? It is a wonderful day in the neighborhood. I overslept this morning by about 2 hours. Unfreaking believable. I could not believe it. But Governor Abbott. Now, we can all agree, I hope. I hope we can all agree that the federal government, Joe Biden's administration, Joe Biden's regime, Joe Biden's appointees, Joe Biden's handlers, whoever his puppet master is, has been doing an absolutely horrendous or perhaps a perfect job, but in my view, horrendous job of controlling the border. Oh, you haven't been to bed yet, Ramen? Oh, that's no good. I know who's going to be asleep before my stream is over. But they've been allowing illegals just to pour across the border. And, they're claiming that they're doing such a fantastic job. Meanwhile, I think we're, what, 15, 20 million illegals have crossed the border so far this year. Uh, Illegals crossing border 2023. How many? Let's see here. 7+ million have crossed the border since October of 2022. Unfreaking believable. Unfreaking believable. How many states don't have? That's interesting. How many states? Populations of states. I state. Okay. Do. List U.S. states by population. So let's see here. How many states do we have with less than 7 million? This is interesting. So let's take a quick count here. I'll throw this up. Yeah, and the homeless, and you're exactly right, Ramen. Thanks. It ain't Friday, so it doesn't count. Yeah, and thanks to all the money and everything being spent on the illegals, we're not spent. That's money that could have been spent on helping the homeless. So let's see here. 39 million. And these are as of 2020. So these are 3 years out of date. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's actually easier to count the number of states that have more than 7 million. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 15 out of the 50 states have a larger population than what has entered the country illegally since Joe Biden has taken office. Think about that. Only 15. And of those 15, it's very easy that these three will be surpassed because it's only 700,000. So, yeah, I mean, by the time Biden's out of office, it could be, 12 states or less have a greater population than what's entered the country illegally. Think about that. Well, Governor Abbott over there in Texas, he faces the brunt of the issues. California has a pretty horrendous issue of it also, but Texas bears the biggest brunt because it's naturally got the largest border along the Rio Grande, the easiest border for them to cross illegally. Just swim across the water, swim across the little river there. So what does Abbott do? He goes and puts up a barrier, a huge ass barrier, floating on our side of the Rio Grande to prevent the illegals from just swimming across. What an amazing, awesome idea. But unfortunately, Joe Biden doesn't like it. He thinks that's a bad idea. My God, I hope. Did you guys hear that? That was something horrendous. A huge noise outside of my apartment, outside of my house. But see these big buoys he's put out there? Ah, those things are massive. The Department of Justice has sued the state of Texas and Governor Abbott on Monday for building a floating barrier at the southern border that the state says will deter migrants, illegals. Let's take out the word migrants and put in the word illegals. Migrants have, that implies that they're coming across the border legally, that they're following our laws. Okay. It's got a different connotation. A migrant is a positive connotation. Let's call it what it is, illegals. Political, I understand you're left wing and everything else, but still, words have meanings. Let's use the proper words in the proper context, please. You didn't hear it, Ramen? Okay, well that's good because it was loud enough it shook the windows in the window here uh, in my living room. Let's see here. The laws but the Biden administration calls a threat to public safety. Really? How's that a threat to public safety? There's no spikes on them. There's no explosive charges. There's no electricity running through them. So they won't shock you. They won't cut you. They won't stab you. They won't puncture you. They're not a threat. The lawsuit filed in federal court alleges that Abbott violated the law by building a structure in the Rio Grande River without authorization, creating an obstruction in U.S. waters. Hmm. That's not, it's not, I'm, okay, is that really considered building? I mean, it's just floating in the water. It can be pulled in. All right. But it is an obstruction in the U.S. waters. I will give them that. I will give them that. The Justice Department is seeking to require Texas officials to remove the barrier at state's expense. The suit claims that structures placed in the Rio Grande require approval from U.S. Corps of Army Engineers, that Texas never sought or received such a permit. They should have really, okay, knowing that the permit would still be denied, they really should have, gone the formality, done the formality of putting in the request. All right, so I'll buy off on that. This floating barrier possesses a threat to navigation and public safety. It presents humanitarian concerns. Associate Attorney General Benita Gupta said. All right, a threat to navigation. Exactly how much navigation is there up and down the Rio Grande? There's not. The navigation up in Rio Grande is mostly border patrol. It's not an intercoastal waterway. There's not trade ships going up and down the Rio Grande. Uh, Public safety, uh, I would say people illegally swimming across, crossing the, swimming across the Rio Grande is more of a threat to navigation and public safety. And definitely, how is this a threat to humanitarian concerns? Oh, it's stopping people from illegally entering the country. Therefore, it's forcing them to actually use other means to enter the country, which, if they're going to enter the country legally, they would cross at a normal border crossing, which is well publicized, has shops and stores and shade and water and food and everything else. Or they could go and cross illegally in the middle of the desert. So by not allowing them to cross here, it's forcing them to choose between crossing legally or continuing to cross illegally somewhere else, which it wouldn't be quite so nice. Yeah, you're right, Ron. Really, they can't come up with better stories than that. The lawsuit was expected after the Justice Department sent a letter to Abbott last week disclosing his plans to sue the state if Abbott didn't remove the barricade, which consists of large buoys to deter illegals, not migrants, political illegals coming from Mexico. In its letter, the department cited unlawful construction of a floating barrier in the Rio Grande River and asserted that it might impede the federal government's official duties. Interesting. If the federal government was actually performing its official duties and patrolling the Rio Grande with Border Patrol agents and preventing people from crossing the border illegally, there would have been no need for Abbott to put the buoys in place. And you can't say that you were planning all of a sudden, after over 2 years in office, 2 years and 5 months in office, or 2 years and 6 months, you were just going to all of a sudden start enforcing immigration control and preventing people from crossing the border illegally. You just can't say that that was something you were going to do and expect me and other people who can think and don't just lap up every word you say as gospel as being the truth. Abbott said in a letter Monday that he would not comply with the Justice Department's request to take down the barricade. The department has given the state until Monday to comply. Earlier this month, Texas set up miles of barriers using barbed wire and buoys in the river near Eagle Pass. To end the risk, come on, to end the risk that illegals will be harmed crossing the border illegally, you must fully enforce the laws of the United States that prohibit, there's a magical word, prohibit, illegal immigration between ports of entry, Abbott said in a letter, which department lawyers attached to the complaint in the suit. They also include photos of the floating barrier taken by the Border Patrol drone. Come on, get your tongue off your eye teeth so you can see what you're saying. Oh yeah, you're right, Ramen. They'll just be sacks of bones. They'll be dehydrated out mummies if they haven't spontaneously combusted. In an interview with Fox News' Brett Baer on Monday evening, Abbott asserted that the devices, like the floating barrier, has repelled tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people trying to cross the border. If you're going to talk about what you've done since Biden's, since we started actually being concerned about illegals crossing the border and putting up barriers, then yeah. But if you're talking about what you've done in the past 6 months, tens of thousands, I think you may be exaggerating just a little bit. Unless, well, then again, you could be talking about worldwide because other countries do things like this, and yeah. So okay, I'm going to we'll mark that up as you're not lying, but you may be being a little Stretch Armstrongy. Abbott said he's willing to litigate the suit up to the Supreme Court in an effort to defend his state's sovereignty and its constitutional right to secure the border of our state and country. He called on President Joe Biden to enforce border control policies more stringently, adding that until he did, Texas would be stepping up to do so. Now, here's the problem that the Biden administration and the federal government has in uh, fighting Abbott here. If you go to cross the border into California, you have to go through border patrol. You have to go through a border crossing area, much as when you cross the border into the United States. But this is not a federal border patrol. These are state. And they reserve the right to inspect your vehicle for contraband that the state has prohibited, mostly vegetation items, fruits, vegetables, and such. And if you refuse to allow them to inspect your vehicle, you can be denied entry into the state of California. And if you cross the border, drive off, you can be arrested, charged, and go to jail. Hey, B Token, how you doing? And this has been brought up before the Supreme Court in the past. People have sued, saying that California doesn't have the right to do this, and California does, in the interest of protecting their state. So using that exact same logic, what Abbott is doing to protect his state of Texas is also constitutional. He's just protecting it along the southern border. So that could be an interesting battle that they may want to fight. That would be interesting to see how that plays out at the Supreme Court. He called on Joe Biden to enforce border control policies more stringently, adding, until he did, Texas would be stepping up to do so. Vice President Kamala Harris also slammed Abbott on Monday, calling the border tactics inhumane, outrageous, and un-American during a speech in Chicago. Now, see, that's interesting. It's un-American to protect your border from people crossing the border illegally. So the rule of law is un-American. And I don't see what's inhumane about putting these buoys up. As I said, there's nothing deadly about the buoys in and of themselves. They are simply a barrier. I wish I could get that speech there because, well, Kamala is she is such a wonderful public speaker, and her cackle leaves just that little laugh of hers. It does things to me you just don't want to imagine. The lawsuit, which names both Abbott and the state of Texas as defendants, was filed by the Justice Department's Environmental and Natural Resources Division in collaboration with U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Texas. The Rio Grande is a significant stretch of southern border of our country. We must all recognize that there are laws and policies in place, both domestic and international, to ensure the safety and security of everybody working, living, and traveling along the river. These laws cannot be ignored, and my office will take and support the appropriate legal action to uphold them. Jamie Esperanza, that's the problem. You're not upholding the laws. You're not upholding the immigration laws. You're not preventing people from crossing the border illegally. The federal government has failed. Why aren't you suing the federal government to do their job and protect our southern border from the masses, over 7 million in 2 years, who have crossed the border illegally? Why aren't you suing the federal government? While the suit is aimed at the floating barrier, a Justice Department spokesperson said last week that officials were also examining complaints that Texas state troopers were ordered to push migrants, illegals, dadgummit, they're illegals, back into the water, even though some members of the group were children. Oh, oh. So if you bring your child along with you, you get a free pass to break our laws. Ain't that wonderful? Just have a child, not necessarily your child, but just a child, any child. Kidnap a child, steal a child, buy a child, rent a child. It doesn't matter if they're related to you or not. Doesn't matter how you got that child. Just have a child with you, and you can break our laws. Amazing. Amazing. Just bust up the laws. It doesn't matter. Hell, you can walk into a bank, have your child with you, have a child with you, any child. Rob that bank and have a good day, sir, ma'am. Enjoy the fruits of everyone else's labor. Because with that child with you, it's not a violation of our laws. We must allow you to do this out of the kindness of our hearts, because it's the humanitarian thing to do. All right, if you want to read this political article, here it is. Come on, post, you stupid thing. There you go. And take your time to post it. All right, so let me close this one. Doop. Okay. Now, of course, there were some questions raised about this. Okay, that was 9 hours ago. This is 16 hours ago. This was the first time KJP, our KJP, our diversity hire spokeswoman for the White House, had this to say.
Texas, Governor Abbott has now responded to the administration responded to the Department of Justice's letter saying Texas will see you in court, Mr. President. Your response, and can you give us a sense of what comes next here, how quickly this may play out?
So I'm going to let the Department of Justice speak to this. They've been very clear last week that they also will see Governor Abbott in court for his unlawful actions. We've been very clear about that, and we have also said that
It's amazing how the full force of the federal government is going against a state's governor, but not going against all the people who are crossing the border illegally on a daily basis. Over 7 million violations of our border laws. And these people have nothing to say about it. Not a word.
when we move forward with a plan, right? A plan of deterrence, diplomacy, and also enforcement with how we were going to move forward after Title 42 was lifted, we actually saw the numbers go down. We actually saw.
But it hasn't dropped to zero. It hasn't dropped to even under 1,000 a day. When they drop from 10,000 to 6,000, yeah, it's a drop. But really, is it a drop? It isn't the low point prior to your administration.
The president's plan working. And what you see the governor doing is dangerous and unlawful, and it's actually hurting the process. It's hurting the process of what we're trying to do. And instead of wanting to, or undermining, I should say, instead of coming to the table and trying to figure out a way to work together,
For 2 years, 2 years, 2.5 years, they've been trying to work with the federal government, and y'all told them to go get bent. Y'all haven't been doing your job for 2.5 years. Why should we expect you to start doing it now?
he continues to do this really cruel, unjust, inhumane ways of moving forward with.
What's cruel about putting up a set of buoys? What's cruel about it? Nobody's getting hurt. It's not electrocuting them. It's not inhumane. It's not stabbing them. It's not sticking them with sharp, pointy objects. It's not shooting them with little pieces of lead. It's not injecting them with drugs. It's a floating barrier. What's cruel? What's inhumane about it? Or is it cruel and inhumane to stop people from crossing the border illegally?
With a system that has been broken for decades. This is a president that has taken action from day one and has continued to show what he can do to help deal with the border situation. But Governor Abbott is not about that, and so the Department of Justice has been very.
No, Governor Abbott is about stopping people from coming into his state illegally from across the southern border. Y'all haven't been about that. Y'all been about standing there with welcome flags when a big bag nasty and cell phones and a plane ticket or bus ticket to any place in the country they want to go. And give me a pinky promise that you're going to show up to court one day. Oh, and by the way, over here's the doctors. Let's go ahead and give you some free medical and get you all caught up. And here's a big, culturally appropriate food for you to enjoy.
Very clear. We've been very clear about that. They've been very clear about taking him to court about his unlawful actions. So I'm going to let them speak to it.
And it's going to be interesting to see how those actions are going to be determined unlawful when California's actions against other Americans, other U.S. citizens, is considered lawful. If it's lawful to prevent people from crossing your border against your laws, and these people are other U.S. citizens, then how is it unlawful to stop people who are not U.S. citizens from illegally crossing the border? That's the question I've got. Okay. But that wasn't the only time she was questioned. Then she got questioned about it again yesterday.
On the situation at the border, I know that you've talked about the reports about migrant women being denied water, but there's also recent reports of children being bloodied by razor wire. Are there any plans for the president to address this himself to the country or
If there's razor wire at legal points of entry into our country and children are being bloodied by it, that's a problem. But if people, again, if they're crossing the border where they're not supposed to, I have no sympathy if they got a little bloodied up because they're breaking our laws. And am I supposed to have extra sympathy because some dumbass decided to bring their child with them to cross the border illegally? See, that word illegally seems to get forgotten by this administration, by the leftists, by the people who want to have no borders. That's the problem. They want to have no borders. They don't want us to have a border. They want us to flood. They want to flood the country with anybody and everybody, except white Europeans. Yes, I said it. The replacement. I do believe in the replacement theory because they've been bragging about it for years.
even to reporters at all?
I think it's important that the Department of Justice is assessing this. I think it's important that the Department of Justice is looking into these types of unlawful actions. I think it's important, as the president's White House press secretary, that I've spoken multiple times here at this podium, especially last week, about how unlawful and how inhumane Governor Abbott's actions has been. And so we'll continue to do that. And we'll continue to move forward with our plan that actually moves forward with dealing in immigration in a humane way.
How about in a way that prevents them from crossing the border illegally to start with? How about that? How about immediately deporting people who cross the border illegally? Back when I lived in Germany, we had some army guy ended up assuming, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, he assumed room temperature. And he assumed room temperature with many more orifices than he was born with. Why? Because he tried crossing the border into Germany illegally. And the German police side, they just weren't having it. And rather than stopping and surrendering to the police side, he ran. Well, the police side, they filled him, they gave him, like I said, they persuaded him to assume room temperature with multiple uh, new orifices in his body. And while I'm sure his parents and family and his anybody else that he was close to were deeply saddened by his demise, he earned it. He took steps to ensure that he got that demise. And I feel much the same way about these people crossing our border illegally. Any physical harm that comes to them They've earned that. They asked for it. It was a goal they worked towards. It was a consequence of their own actions. They could have crossed the border legally. But no, they decided they wanted to flout our laws and cross the border illegally. And this is what ticks me off more than anything else about our administration, about this administration, about this woman in particular, and about Mayorkas. They have no problem whatsoever ranting and raving for as long as I do. I mean, I've been 40 some minutes on this. I've got no problem with, they've got no problem with, well, it's inhumane for Abbott to do this. It's inhumane for DeSantis to send illegals to New York or Martha's Vineyard or Chicago or any other sanctuary city. It's cruel. It should be illegal. It's inhumane. But they got no problem with the people who are actually breaking our laws. Over 7 million illegals in 2.5 years. Think about it. Try to wrap your brain around that little fact. Over 7 million in 2.5 years crossed our borders illegally. That's just the ones we can account for. How many are there that we can't account for? I'd say probably another 7 million.
We've been always very clear about that. As we move forward in dealing with this immigration issue, we have to do it in a humane way. And that's what we've seen. That's why we've expanded legal pathways. That's why we've made sure that we've had diplomatic conversation. That's why we've made sure that we've had enforcement at the border to make sure the unlawful process of this is dealt with. And so that's what you've seen. I think if you look at the president's actions, that says everything that you need to know to the question that you're asking me. From the
Wait, did she just say what I think she said? Back this up.
is dealt with. And so that's what you've seen. I think if you look at the president's actions, that says everything.
Did she did. I didn't catch this the first time I listened to this. Listen to what the president's actions, she, not he, she.
Process of this is dealt with. And so that's what you've seen. I think if you look at the president's actions, that says everything that you.
Holy crap. Woman, am I mishearing that? Be token, am I mishearing that? Why don't you guys respond back to me? Did I mishear that? Or did she misspeak? Or did she say a quiet part out loud? This is interesting as all get out. I'm going to play this back one more time. I was just getting ready to do that, B token.
Dealt with. And so that's what you've seen. I think if you look at the president's actions, that says everything that you need to.
That is.
You've seen. I think if you look at the president's actions, that says everything that you.
She did say she. That's what I thought. Yeah, that's why I had to play it back. She did say she.
you need to know to the question that you're asking me. From the day one of this administration, the president put forth a comprehensive immigration piece of legislation to deal with this issue that has been a problem, a broken system for decades, wanting to do it in a humane way. When you have a governor who is undermining the process and doing it in a way that is
All right, I'm done listening to her. But man, that's okay. That was at 1 minute and 13 seconds, I believe.
what you've seen. I think if you look at the president's actions, that says
A minute, okay, 1 minute and 14. You want to go to 1 minute 13 to 1 minute 14 to get the whole thing. Let me post this link in the chat so that anybody who goes back to listen to it can listen to it themselves. And let's see here. Where am I at? Minute 16. So let me take this back to a minute 12. And I think there's a way of copy video URL at current time. Okay, let me post that link. There. And that starts at 1 minute and 12 seconds into this video. But yeah, there you go, folks. And she actually did use the female pronoun of she when talking about the President of the United States. If that isn't something else. Let's see here. Okay. So that is enough about that. Wow, I've gone 50 minutes. I had an appointment with Miracle Ear yesterday. I had a free hearing exam. And it turned out exactly pretty much the way I expected it to. They did ear, the first he gets in there with his little magic wand and lights up the inside of my ear with the miniature camera and, goes in and he goes, you used to either swim or dive when you were much younger, didn't you? Yeah, I swam and dove competitively, sorta. And how can you tell that? He goes, well, because of the way the bones in your eardrum surrounding your eardrum have been deformed. Because it should be like this, and people who swam and dove and did it on a lot, did a lot of it when they were younger. This is what happens, and this is the change to the ear canal we can see. So, okay, cool. And he goes, and your ears are remarkably clean. Do you use this? I said, no, I don't. I don't do anything in particular to clean my ears. It is what it is. And then did the hearing test. The hearing test itself, you sit there, you put in the little things and this and that, and then, you hear the beeps and go beep when you push the button when you hear it, beep, 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 beep. Anyway, and then different volumes. And everywhere from minor, my hearing, depending on the different tone, was anywhere from minor to moderately severe hearing loss, which working on the flight line for 17 years, that's going to give it to you, around jet engines and uh, everything else. It's going to give you hearing loss. Shooting guns a lot, that's going to result in some hearing loss. Da, 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 da. Then there's another test. This is the first time I ever had this test where he sat there and said, all right, push the button when this noise is so loud you cannot stand it. It's actually painful. I'm like, say what? Okay. And true to form, high pitched noises I can't stand. They actually hurt me. My mom sang soprano. I could not sit within 4 or 5 people of her at church services because her voice, my mom has a beautiful voice. My mother had a beautiful voice. Everybody said what a beautiful voice she had. They wanted her to sing in the church choir because she has such a beautiful soprano. I could not listen to her sing when she was going full throat. I couldn't do it because that pitch hurt my ears. And he called it out perfectly. And then another new test I've never heard of, and it makes sense to have it, is the machine was set up and it would say words at a very low volume. And you had to repeat back what it was, like beeswax, daybreak, lunchtime, mushroom, and such. Well, there are two words I missed. And one of them to me, it sounded like he said tear duct. That's not what it said. But the other one, I had him stop it and I said, wait a minute, play that one again for me. And I had him do it twice. And I said, okay, are you sure you want me to say this word or these two words that I am hearing in my ear? That my brain is processing these sounds as. He said, "Yeah, I want you to hear. I want you to tell me what two words you're hearing." Okay, doc, it's date rape. And he looked at me. He goes, "What are you hearing?" I am hearing your machine to ask me to repeat the words date rape. And he started laughing. He goes, no, 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 no. That's not the words that is asking you to say. Okay, well, what is it asking me to say? He said, it's day break. No, 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 no. That's not what I'm hearing. Well, he pulls out this little book that come with this machine. And evidently, a very small population of people hear that word when spoken by this machine at that volume. The word they break as date rape. A very small portion of the population. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. He goes, no, he goes, I had an 86-year-old woman tell me that one time when I was testing her hearing. And I just started laughing. So, you really ought to consider taking that word out of the machine. Because I'm in an office. Okay, yeah, granted, you're a male. But you're a receptionist, a 70-year-old woman sitting just on the other side of this wall. Who may or may not be able to hear everything I say in this room. May or may not have heard me say, I heard your machine say date rape. Now, her and I had a very pleasant discussion while I was waiting for my appointment. And I don't want her to think of me as somebody with the mindset, as B token hinted here, subliminal messaging, the word date rape. That's not, I've been married for over 33 years now. I'm not about going out on dates. But anyway, that was my interesting thing for the day yesterday. Very cool doctor, though. Very, very cool doctor. He, uh, we we had some rather interesting conversations between and betwixt. Um, he's also very well. Good morning, Becca. Okay, so just to watch people get a little, huh? Did I hear what? Becca, if you haven't been listening to the first hour of this show, you need to go back because I was talking about Abbott and his little buoy wall. Um, that I tell you though, that did make for an interesting conversation for a few minutes though. Me hearing daybreak is date rape. Okay. Our glorious, glorious leader, El Presidente, the man who represents us to the world. He is the face of our country. One of the leaders of the worlds, of all the other countries in the world. Think of the United States right now. The face they see is Joe Biden. Okay. Well, I'm glad work is keeping you busy. That's always a good thing because that means that you're earning a good paycheck because, well, at least you're earning a paycheck because fortunately that means, you're making money for your employer. Therefore, he's got money to pay you. That's the way I look at it. The busier I am, the more money my boss is making. The more money my boss makes, the more money he has to pay me. So there's that. But anyway, now when we're used to seeing Joe Biden here lately, where did they go? Oh, did I close them? Yes, I did. Well, when we're used to seeing Joe Biden here lately, though, when you picture Joe Biden, when I picture him, I picture him up, falling up a flight of stairs. Now, ask Monkey, ask me. It is difficult to fall up a flight of stairs, even though we have both done it on occasion. And Monkey and I, we both have excuses for this. Nerve damage has the tendency to make you do stupid things. Make you appear to be rather uncoordinated, aged, decrepit, and otherwise. But do you really want somebody who can fall up a flight of stairs, fall on their butt because of a sandbag, because for some reason they didn't see a sandbag, uh, stopping a bicycle and just falling over? Becca, I know that. Boy, do I know that one. Ah, so how has Biden and his handlers fixed the problem? Well, he's gone and had special stairs made. Biden doubles now. This isn't the Biden's double. Somebody standing in for Biden, somebody pretending to be Biden, somebody, like a double in the TV and movies and such, the stunt double. It's not that kind of Biden doubles. Okay. The New York Post, I wonder if they used that uh, terminology on purpose. But Biden's doubles the use of shorter stairs to board Air Force One since viral flop. And when they mean shorter stairs, stairs with a shorter rise. Instead of having a normal 6 to 10 inch step up, this year may only have a 4 or 5 inch step up. So he doesn't have to lift his foot quite so high because he just barely doesn't always get his toe over the lip of the next step. I would I wouldn't be surprised about that either. Joe Biden's use of shorter staircase to board Air Force One has doubled since his embarrassing flop when he tripped during a graduation ceremony last month. The White House appears making concessions for the 80-year-old Biden as he prepares to run for a second term so that a viral fall or blunder never happens again, according to analysis by NBC News. One of the adjustments appears to be the treacherous climb. Treacherous. Oh, climbing them stairs is just so treacherous. Up the stairs to the presidential, usually an iconic image. They forgot the word aircraft. Usually an iconic image for past presidents. You can't be too careful, one aide told the outlet. The shorter set of stairs, which enters the plane's belly, was used by the commander in chief to board Air Force One just 37% of the time before his viral trip uh, at the Air Force Academy. In the past 7 weeks, however, the report said Biden has used the short stairs 84% of the time, or 31 out of the 37 times he's gotten on or off the plane. Yeah, poor old Joe. I mean, he just can't lift his foot enough to get up them stairs. Oh, now this is interesting here. They've got this here's a chief master sergeant in the U.S. Air Force. All right. Let me embiggen this here. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, come on. Where's get this picture again? See the three stripes? You take away those three stripes, and that's what I had when I retired. That's how many stripes I had on my uniform. 3 at the star and the two rockers. The one above is an E7, like what this gentleman has. Here's a master sergeant. 2 above, that's E8, senior master sergeant. 3 above, that's E9, chief master sergeant. Boy, look at that salad that man's got on his chest. Oh, and is that a Sky Cop badge on their uniform? It sure does look like it. These are Sky Cops. That looks like a Sky Cop emblem on badge that he's wearing on his uniform there. So they're security police. Yeah, there's Joe laying on the ground at the Air Force Academy in Colorado. The short stairs, short bus. Yep. The White House refused to comment to NBC on the stair situation, while an aide told the network the decision came down to the weather. While even former Democratic President Hillary Clinton admitted that President Biden's advanced age is an issue for his electability in 2024. It is a concern for everyone. We've had presidents who've fallen before who were a lot younger and people didn't go into heart palpitations. Gerald Ford, remember when Gerald Ford tripped one time and Saturday Night Live went ballistic? They had more fun. Saturday Night Live had more fun with that than Carter got little green pills. And remember how it was such a concern when President Trump very slowly walked down that wet ramp or used both hands to raise the glass of water. And the media had heart palpitations over it. Oh, and they brought in all these medical professionals to tell you how decrepit Trump was. And the silence with Joe Biden. Yep, there's Joe falling up the stairs again. That was in Poland. Anyway. Good Lord have mercy. Is that top painted on her? That's got to be painted. There's no way in hell that's actual cloth. That Well, morning, Retro. I'm glad to see you made it. I would not be surprised to see that Biden has at in DC there, where the primary location for Air Force One. If he doesn't have a new set of stairs manufactured, which much smaller rise to the steps, uh, so that he's not using the inboard stairs, but actually using the iconic with the big emblem on the side. I won't be surprised if he doesn't have a set of those modified so that he can climb the steps more easily. Or better yet, have a escalator. Thank you. I'm sitting here trying to think of the words. Have made into type of an escalator. Oh, come on. Retro, not as he's worse than Ford. The only reason why people your age and my age think about Ford as being that stumbling bum was the fact that Saturday Night Live made so much fun of him at the time. Every weekend it was a new Saturday Night Live prank about Ford falling. All right. One of the groups I'm a member of, the gun groups, is the GOA, Gun Owners of America. And yeah, definitely back when Saturday Night Live was good. And I believe they're much more effective than NRA is anymore. So I subbed to their YouTube channel, and they really bring out a lot of news and such. Well, and given GOA every bit of credit here, I'm going to borrow part of their video here about something that's coming up in in the Congress that we need to be aware of as gun owners. Now, I'm going to play this at a little quicker speed. I won't play it 1.5 for a little bit here so that but I want this is important. This is important. This is something that every one of us who are gun owners, we need to be aware of this happening right now.
So let's just get this out of the way first. The frame and the slide are clearly visible from the exterior and house many of the fire control components. The base plate houses many fire control components as well. The extractor and the extractor.
What he's doing is counting the parts that per law right now has to be identifiable. As being belonging to a gun.
Remember when Phil took apart his problem solver to find out what parts qualified as a frame?
We will designate a part as a firearm if it's visible from the exterior and houses or integrates a broadly defined fire control component. So let's just get this out of the way first. The frame and the slide are clearly visible from the exterior and house many of the fire control components. The base plate houses many fire control components as well. The extractor and the extractor depressor plunger are also both externally visible and house an internally essential spring now as well. The magazine catch is visible from the exterior and houses the magazine catch spring. And yeah, the slide lock houses a spring and is externally visible. The magazine body, magazine base plate, magazine insert, and magazine follower all house or integrate an internal magazine spring, which is certainly now considered a fire control component. The firing pin is also partially exposed to the exterior and integrates many other necessary internal fire control components. The trigger mechanism housing is visible from the exterior and houses many essential components, such as the ejector and the trigger bar. Trigger houses the trigger bar as well and is externally visible. The barrel is also serialized, so the ATF wants dealers to presume it's a firearm, but it also houses or integrates the externally visible guide rod in this groove. And lastly, the guide rod also houses several springs on my Glock 40 as well. That's 16 ATF regulated firearms in one Glock 40.
16 frames in one Glock 40. Now, this is where the ambush comes from. That's 16 parts in a Glock that could be counted as a major component under this law. Then that means all of those gun parts have to be detectable, or else the whole gun gets banned. Now, what gets even crazier is that if any of those parts don't meet the arbitrary standard that AG Garland could just make up, whether it doesn't look like a firearm or it doesn't set off a broken metal detector, then that person who owns the gun could be charged under the law with having an undetectable firearm. This has the potential to be even larger than the pistol brace ban. What's worse is, usually this law expires after 10 years, and that timeline allows Congress to hold the Attorney General accountable to the intent of the law. But this time, they want to make that law permanent, and that in turn makes this law all the more ripe for abuse by the Biden administration. And guess where they're trying to sneak this fun new ban into we have to worry about, huh? You guessed it, the military's budget. If you thought it'd be a normal summer in DC, you're straight out of luck. But that's exactly what we're here for, to make sure nothing gets snuck by us or you. We warned Congress that we wanted a clean military budget. And here they go, throwing random stuff into it, even though they complain about that on Twitter. The Senate skipped the whole process and just threw it in at the very end. Senator Schumer decided to add what they call manager's amendments in right before the bill goes for a final vote. Now, sometimes the manager's amendments are used to fix grammar or spelling, because congressmen can't afford spell check for some reason. But it's also a way to get stuff into the final bill without having it be voted on. That means all those squishy anti-gunners get to use this as an excuse that it's a must-pass bill instead of having to vote on the amendment separately. Now, you're asking.
Okay. Now I'll post a link to this if you want to listen to it at normal speed. I played like 2 minutes of this 6-minute video. What's going on here is the law that certain portions, certain amount of your gun has to be made of metal so that it is detectable by a metal detector. Well, modern technology, airport security and such, I mean, people have written funny, strange things on their underwear to embarrass TSA agents. When the detection systems at TSA were sued a few years ago and had to have the software rewritten as to not be as good as it was because it exposed many intimate parts of the human body, not just outlines thereof, but very detailed views. The idea that you could sneak a plastic gun past them is ridiculous. But using the law as it is currently written, it is stopping the innovation within the gun industry to making smaller and lighter guns. People like my wife, she's got a small Glock 380, the smallest one she could get her hands on, that she still felt comfortable shooting. And even that, she still doesn't like carrying it as often, especially as often as I'd like to have her carrying it, because it is heavy to her. She doesn't feel, it's heavy. She doesn't feel comfortable carrying it. If the gun had, even another 6 to 9, 8 ounces lighter, she'd feel a little bit more comfortable, I think, carrying the firearm with her. But she doesn't. And using this and the law that they're trying to sneak in, we already know the ATF and the Department of Justice, especially under this administration, look how many lawsuits that they've been involved with the way they've tried to overstep their bounds. And if this is made into a permanent law, all we're doing is asking for more restrictions on our Second Amendment rights without going through Congress. I've said many times, and it's something I'm a firm believer in, that these alphabet agencies, every stinking one of them should not be able to make a rule that has any form of penalty attached to it without it going through Congress and the president. It's that plain and simple. If that means that they have to wait until once a year, this is our dream list of rules that we want to have in effect, and present that list of rules to the House and Senate to have them voted on, line by line, then that's what it means that they need to do. And that means from the rule to the punishment for breaking that rule. Every aspect of it must be voted on by Congress, and every aspect of it must be signed by the president. That would eliminate a lot of our problems. As a discussion, we've all gotten into this discussion before. Everybody's gotten into it. How unless you live in your house or apartment and never leave it, you're probably guilty of breaking 10 to 30 laws a day. And even if you never leave your apartment, you're probably still going to break a couple, 3 laws a day, because there's so many. Yeah, Becca, you're right. And I know I've got a very gun-friendly audience. I know that. Why? Because y'all are all good people. Y'all all believe in the Constitution. And y'all all believe that we have the right to defend ourselves as we see fit within our homes, within our vehicles, and on our persons. I was watching a video this morning. Woman went go into a convenience store, and it happened to have, little instant pizzas and hot dogs and such. And she wanted to take her dog in. The person at the cashier told her the dog can't stay in because they got food and it's a health violation. Well, they hadn't had the food set up yet. But anyway, this woman is threatening him. I'm going to smack you, silly. I'm going to break your jaw. I'm going to knock your teeth out. I may be having a bad day and I may come back and shoot you. Well, at that point, I have to give this guy at the counter a hell of a lot of credit, because he just did not react to her diatribe. He just stood there, and with his beard, I couldn't tell if he was smiling or not, but he just stood there and sucked it all up until she left. There had been a point I would have trespassed her from the store. Probably end up calling the police on her ass. And maybe she would have stepped close to me again, because she kept getting up in his face a few times. I may have taken personal defense, the steps towards personal defense, let's say. But he didn't, and not being there, not seeing the person, we're not able to read that person's actions. We're not being able to read their facial expressions or their body language or anything else. All we can do is hear what they're saying in their tone of voice. But again, personal defense is something everybody needs to take in their consideration. And people who are slighter of frame, or aged. I quit being able to shoot a 45 years ago because of the nerve damage. I started stovepiping too damn regular to be able to keep shooting a 45. So I stepped back to a 9 mil. And I could foresee me having to step back to a 380 for personal defense. Or maybe even a 22 shorts or 22 longs, depending on what firearm I get. You know, just depending on how the nerve damage and such in my arms progress. So, but the lighter the firearm, the more of, there are people who can't handle heavy steel framed firearms. There needs to be an ability for a lighter firearm for personal defense, because the more you need that lighter firearm, physically need it, the more you need to have a firearm, the more of a potential victim you are. Now, what was that? All men. God created all men, but Sam Smith uh, made them equal. Well, how's that quote go, Becca? You know that quote better than I do. Or Colt made them equal. Colt made them equal. Okay, what's the quote. God created men. Colonel Colt made them equal. All right. So, as we all age, there are going to be times that you're going to want you're right, Becca, it was Colt. And that's the way it needs to be, and by these stupid laws that really have no place anymore, that, written back in the 70s and 80s, technology has advanced a hell of a lot since the 70s and 80s. The laws just aren't keeping up. And let's see here. I've got 15 more minutes to go here this morning before I've got to leave. What do I want to do with now? What kind of fun stuff do I want? I've got two fun things I want to. Okay, here's a fun one. Here's a nice palate cleanser. Whoops. Cancel that. Present. Okay. Now, this is a road in Hungary. Do you see the musical emblem there on the road? That is neat. That is, that wrote that song. That's the chorus to a song. Excuse me first. Okay. Let me shrink this back down. Go down here. Oh, okay. That is a chorus to a song that's written about the town that that road leads to. Um, and it's okay. Let me unshare that, and that way I can click over to here, pull this up. Okay, and see if I can. Here we go. The song has a story. The name of the song is Republic. The song's name is 67S Oot, which means Route 67, one of Hungary's best known bands in their song. It's, let's see, it's like in Hungary as John Denver's Country Roads in the US. The singer wrote the song to his ex wife because it hurt him a lot when they broke up and got divorced. The girl is from a town that Route 67 leads to, and the song is about unrequited love. The guy that wrote the song died of cancer 10 years ago, and the musical asphalt with this chorus was made in his honor. We need that in the US. We need something like that in the US. That is that that is it's just a unique and nifty and great idea. You know, that Becca, that's why I like speed control, cruise control on my car. The when I'm coming home from work at night or in the mornings, going to work at night or coming home from work in the mornings on the nights that I do work, there's a 3 mile stretch. It's 45 miles an hour, but it's a 4-lane highway. And yeah, you're probably right. Be ruined by potholes eventually. But it's a 4-lane highway, and people usually traveling 55 and 60 along it. Well, right now, the Florida State Highway Patrol, they need some extra cash, and uh, they're out there on speed duty. Speed duty and illegal license plate coverings. That illegal license plate cover, if it even touches the word Florida or touches the yellow year sticker on your license plate, that's a $35 ticket for having your license plate having an illegal license plate cover on your vehicle. Oh yeah, that's definitely a gimmick, but it's a great gimmick. It rewards the person for uh, keeping the right speed limit. But then there's people that would say, let's see what this sounds like at 80 miles an hour instead of 45. So there'd be somebody out there that would want to uh, go above and beyond. Um, I think I'll cover that story tomorrow. Let's see. And before I get to the closing thing I've got, let's see if there's anything new anything breaking news going on here right now. Oh, that's well, thanks, Forbes. You're finally putting up something that happened 3 days ago. Oh, there was a car crash. DeSantis is covered in a car crash. What's going on here? Oh, I missed this. DeSantis was in a car crash in Tennessee. DeSantis uninjured in car crash while campaigning in Tennessee. Okay, Tuesday morning. Okay, just outside of chat or in Chattanooga. Campaign spokesman said, according to multiple reports, DeSantis and travelers and staffers traveling with him were not injured. We appreciate the prayers and well wishes of the nation for his continued protection on the campaign trail. The cause and severity of the crash were not immediately clear. Forbes has reached out to the DeSantis campaign. Okay. So DeSantis was involved in a little fender bender this morning. Now, ladies in the audience, tell me something. And I already know what Becca's answer to this is because I know Becca's rules. But and gentlemen in the audience, how many of you know young ladies or ladies of any age willing to go out in public to a movie theater dressed as such? I don't know very many myself that would go out in public wearing that dress. This young lady, obviously, I could. Um, I could imagine Lizzo wearing that dress. There's quite a few female rap artists I could imagine wearing that dress. But I'm just talking normal people. That is, it's got to be a bit on the chilly side. And at a movie theater, she gonna be willy chilly. And she's not there to actually watch the movie. You think she's there to be watched, Becca? You think that she's there for? But you can thank your boy Pat for bringing that to my attention. And let's see. Is there anything else new that needs to? Oh, what do y'all think of this new X for what? I don't even know what in the hell they're calling it now. If they're not big, I mean, it still says tweet, so I woke up this morning to this weird ass X on my computer. And well, they're still calling it Twitter Blue. At least there they've. So are they still calling it Twitter? I don't know. So that weird, that is an ugly looking X. It really is. So, but anyway, that's about all I have for y'all today, because if I get involved in anything else, I will run a 3 or 4 hour. You're right about that, Becca, about what is screaming. So, was that part of the agreement Musk had when he bought Twitter, that he had to rename it? If so, I missed that condition of sale. Twitter rebrand. Here we go. Oh, interesting. Twitter's rebrand could be legally challenging. That's interesting. Twitter owner Elon Musk to rebrand the bird themed social media to X is well underway, but trademarking the new brand, protecting it from legal challenges, may be bumpier. The letter X is commonly cited in trademarks, meaning it's possible the website formerly known as Twitter could be accused of infringing upon another company's intellectual property. There's a 100% chance that Twitter is going to get sued over this by somebody. Nearly 900 companies have filed trademark registrations involving the letter X in the U.S. alone, including tech behemoths such as Meta and Microsoft. Registering a trademark allows companies to prevent third parties from marketing identical or similar products or services under an identical or similarly or confusing similar name. Well, that's interesting. Then how is it that we have uh, 900 companies with a trademark over the letter X just in the U.S.? And if he owned XCOM, which became PayPal, so if he owned XCOM, then the letter X is, he may still own the right to letter X because he had XCOM. So he may already have that right. So, well, we'll see. Retro, you may be right too. But I mean, if he already owns the letter, I mean, if he had copyrighted the XCOM and had a logo made up to it, then he may be fully well covered there. Uh, Personally, I don't care too much, but that's just me. It's just woke up to that. Excuse me, just woke up to that this morning. So, but that is the last of what I got for the day. Last thing that, at least for now, that has me interested. Let's see here. Tomorrow is Wednesday. My next guaranteed stream will be Friday. Of course, there's always a possibility I may stream tomorrow or Thursday, but the times are not even written in wet sand. They're not even written in dry sand or dust, because I've got things going on tomorrow morning and Thursday morning that preclude me from my normal streaming times. But tomorrow, there will be the Friday fun stream on Friday. All right. So everybody, I want to thank y'all for coming out. Retro and Becca and B Token, and of course Ramen, who probably she fell asleep. You know, I just can't. Other than the 2 nights a week retro where I have to stay up all night, and the only way I can stay up all night on those 2 nights is minimum of 64 ounces of coffee in that 8-hour shift, and another 40 ounces of water, and either YouTube or audiobooks to keep me going all night long. But I want to thank everybody that's come out tonight. And by the way, I did pick up a new follower yesterday. So VP, let's see. I've got his stuff right here. Well, I did have it right here. What happened to it? Oh, here I go. Come on. Get coordinated. Get coordinated, you old fart. VI99DA. New follower popped on yesterday. So when he gets a chance to listen, please comment. I welcome all comments. And everybody have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Be with the ones you love. Love the ones that you're with. Have as much fun getting out of the trouble as you did getting into it. And we'll be back later.